Hi, if you stumbled upon this video for the first time, do not scroll. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Brittany. I am a mom to three. I have a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 7-month-old, and I have gained 150 pounds over the last 10 years. That's a lot. It's probably more like 11 years, but that's an insane amount of weight, and I want to tell you how I got here. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Growing up, I was never overweight. Like, never. I know that that's a lot of people's stories, but that's not mine. So I'm 5'7". Pretty much most of my life, I have been around like 140 to 150, at least like my early adult life. I played sports growing up, pretty much did any sport you can think of. I did soccer, I did volleyball, I did basketball, I did track, I did dance. I was just an insanely active child. Soccer was my thing growing up. I started playing when I was 4 years old and I played all the way through college. At one point, I actually thought about going pro. I always told myself that my eating habits were going to catch up with me eventually, and that's honestly what happened. I didn't eat like horribly, but I lived with my parents at the time. They made meals. I wasn't overeating. I wasn't eating terrible things. My parents were really good about making us eat healthy. We didn't have junk food and snacks in the house all the time. There's my child talking. We didn't have pop all the time. Like, those weren't things that we normally had. Those were just like for vacation type of things. And so I just knew that the way that I would eat, like, not at our house, I knew that that was going to catch up with me eventually. It was something I always joked about. So unfortunately, my junior year of high school, I tore my ACL. That's a ligament in your knee, if you didn't know. I tore it playing volleyball. Your junior year of high school is the year that you usually get recruited by colleges to play sports. And I was on track to play D1 somewhere, and that was my original plan and my original goal. And that got completely derailed, unfortunately. So I didn't lose myself at that point. I had completely rehabilitated my knee, and I played my senior year of high school, and as well as like my travel team that I was on. But that was kind of the first step of derailing, I would say, my fitness goals and like my mentality when it came to sports. I did end up still getting recruited by a 2-year community college to play soccer, which I loved my experience there. I was able to start at D1 schools. You don't always start, you're kind of a bench warmer in the beginning, but I was able to start because I was one of the best players on the team, if not the best player on the team. And it was still a fun experience. However, my second year, which would have been my last year playing there, I had originally again planned to then transfer to a 4-year university, potentially a D1 school at that point, to continue on playing. I severely broke my ankle my second year playing at practice. It was like right before we were supposed to go to Arizona for nationals, or not Arizona, Texas for nationals, which that just sucked all around. I had to have major surgery. First of all, I had to have major surgery on my knee. I don't know if I told you that. I did end up having ACL surgery on my knee, but then I had to have major surgery on my ankle. It wasn't just broken. I tore a bunch of ligaments. I have a bunch of screws and a giant plate in my ankle. And at that point, my brain was just kind of done. I didn't feel like coming back from that. It was a lot the first time rehabilitating from my ACL injury, and my life was just all over the place at this point. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do as far as like my future went, as far as, you know, a job, because that's something you have to think about when you're in college. And I didn't really have a path forward. I did go to nursing school at that point, but then I quit and it just wasn't for me. And so there was a lot going on at that time as far as like the academic side of it. And I was just so burnt out from needing to rehabilitate myself. And I had a path forward to go to a 4-year university. It was actually one of my previous travel soccer coaches who ended up coaching that team, and he was willing to take me and have me play on that team. I just was not at all wanting to go down that path anymore. It was so much work. So that was the end of my college career, was after those 2 years and after I broke my ankle. It was the end of the season at that point. I was insanely in shape in the college. We worked out multiple times a day with a weightlifting trainer. We ran all the time. We obviously practiced multiple times a week. So there wasn't any type of weight gain at that point. I was very in shape, like probably the most in shape I'd ever been at that point. Once I stopped playing soccer competitively, things started to go downhill. This was the turning point for me. After I transferred to a 4-year university, I was in the nursing program, and I had one semester of that, and I decided I didn't want to do nursing anymore. And so I wasn't going to college anymore. At this point, I was probably like 20 years old, I think. When I finished playing soccer, I was probably around 150 pounds. And then I slowly started gaining weight once I wasn't playing anymore and I was back living with my parents. And I just kind of ate whatever I want. I wasn't eating horribly, but I did slowly gain weight. And I wasn't really exercising anymore. I mean, I did play soccer with my mom in some leagues that she was in, and I did play in an outdoor league once a week, but there was no practices. There wasn't anything crazy happening. I wasn't doing a ton of extracurricular. I went from basically working out every single day, hardcore, to maybe once a week, if that. And over the course of, I'd say, 2 to 3 years, I gained about 30 pounds. Would be about, maybe it was only like 25 to 30, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it was to me, especially somebody who had been in shape her whole entire life and didn't know what it felt like to start being slightly overweight. At that point, I was still in shape. Like, I still had some endurance, and I told myself that I was going to run a half marathon. So at this point, I was probably like 23. I was probably around 175 pounds, maybe 180. I honestly can't remember at this point, but I decided I was going to run a half marathon. So I started training for that. I was working at this point. I wasn't in college anymore, and I trained for that half marathon, and I ran that half marathon, and I lost all of the weight. I was back down to 140, 145 pounds, lower than I was when I was playing soccer in college because I wasn't really weightlifting, but I lost all of that weight. After I ran that half marathon, I told myself I was going to stay in shape. I was going to keep running because I honestly loved it. I was obsessed with running at that point. The runner's high is real. I know that people say, oh my God, I could never run. I know that my background is a little bit different than some people who've never worked out in their life, but I was never somebody who just loved running. I would run like 2 miles at a time, and all of a sudden I was running 10, 11, 12, 13 miles, and I was absolutely loving it. And I thought that I was going to keep going, but I didn't. And that's where everything went downhill. After that half marathon, I met my husband. So in 2014 is when I ran that half marathon, and I kind of completely stopped working out. I wasn't even really playing soccer anymore. I played in one league, I think, with some of my friends, but I wasn't consistently working out. I was slowly gaining weight. Not to put this on my husband, I am somebody, which this is my fault, but I am somebody who adapts the eating habits the person I'm with, which is such a bad habit to have. Like, the first time I gained weight was because of a boyfriend that I had at the time, and this time that I gained weight was because of my husband. I know that's really bad to say, and I know that it is my fault because I stopped working out. He did not eat the best, and he drank tons of pop and ate tons of junk food and kept chips and cookies and snacks in the house all the time, and I was not somebody who did that previously with my family or even when I was living alone because I wasn't used to doing that. And so this is where I started gaining all of the weight. At my wedding, and my gosh, when did I get married? 2017, I was 185 pounds. So I had gained 45 pounds back in 3 years, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it was. I gained that weight back. I ran another half marathon somewhere in between there. After we got married, I stopped working out, I stopped running, I stopped eating healthy, we were living together. Everything took a turn for the worse. I can't remember the exact details, but we did go on a vacation in 2019 to Ireland, and I remember being like 240 pounds at that point. So I went from 185 to 240 pounds in a matter of 2 years. So I definitely gained a decent amount of weight. I hovered at 240 for a really long time. So at this point, I've gained 100 pounds since 2014. In about 4 years, I gained 100 pounds. So I got pregnant in 2020, March of 2020. And I think I started that pregnancy at around 215 pounds, so I might have lost a little bit of weight at some point. I honestly can't remember when that happened, but I think I lost a little bit of weight. I think I started that pregnancy at 215, and then I gained around 45 pounds. I think that's to like 260 if I'm doing that math correctly. I think I gained till around 260 pounds, maybe 265, and I lost weight pretty significantly at first after I had him. So I think I lost around like 20 pounds initially after I had him. So I, again, was hovering around 240 for most of that time between my first child and my second child. I wasn't working out still. I wasn't eating healthy. COVID was a thing. We were eating out a ton, right? Because we were doing DoorDash all the time and we couldn't go anywhere, and I wasn't exercising because it was freaking winter and I had a newborn baby. And at this point, spoiler alert, I also had 2 full-time jobs because I started my own business. I started my own photography business, and so I was doing that full-time. I was doing my actual full-time job that made me more money, and I had the newborn baby, so I did not have time for literally anything, and it was hard. It was very, very difficult to try to think about what I was going to eat for every single meal. So again, I was hanging around 240 after I had lost like my initial weight from breastfeeding and the baby and whatnot. I think during COVID, I slowly gained a little bit of it back. I think I had gotten up to like 250, 255 before I decided to have a second kid. I wanted to get healthier. I was at a weight that I was not comfortable with. I felt horrible, to be honest with you. I have always had high blood pressure and I didn't have any issues with my pregnancy with it, but I just wanted to not get worse. I set out to lose as much weight as I possibly could within the year extra that we gave ourselves. So I wanted to have kids 2 years apart, but I decided that I physically just didn't want to be pregnant yet. So I made the decision for myself and for my body to wait another year. The profession that I have, being a wedding photographer, I tried to schedule my births in the off season, and I was able to do that with my first, and I was able to do that with our second. So I knew that I wanted to wait a whole nother year. Otherwise, I was going to have a child in the middle of wedding busy season, and I didn't want to have to cancel weddings and stuff. All I did to lose weight, so I ended up losing, I'm not sure what the math is on that, but I got down to 215. I did Nutrisystem. I didn't work out. I mean, I went on walks with like my kid, but I didn't work out like crazily. I didn't go on walks every single day. I pretty much just ate better, and I ended up doing Nutrisystem. And I know that a lot of people are like against these like weight loss plans, but to me, it took the guesswork out of figuring out what I had to eat for every single meal, and having the newborn and having the full-time job. Like, it was just a very, very big struggle into making sure I was full and that I was still losing weight. Spoiler alert, it freaking worked. Anyways, we waited a whole entire year and I was able to get down to 215 pounds, which was the same starting weight that I was at with my first child. And the second pregnancy, I wanted to eat healthier. I wanted to lose weight. So he was born in March of 2024. And so I was pregnant, I don't know what the math is on that. It's a May-ish maybe of 2023. And I still was not really working out. I wasn't eating healthy. I ended up gaining 55 pounds, I think, with this pregnancy. I think it got up to like 270 maybe. I'm not exactly sure on the math of all of it, but I think it was around 270 that I got up to with him with that pregnancy. And I felt like absolute trash. Like, I had lost myself in motherhood. I was full-time in my wedding photography business at this point, so I had already quit my other job. I quit my other job when my first child was 1 year old, when he turned 1. So the beginning of 2022 is when I went full-time with photography. So I've been full-time for a while now, but I only had the one child to take care of and then the newborn. But it was still a lot. I still was not doing well. My health is still not great. I, again, didn't really have any issues with the second pregnancy either, as far as like my blood pressure getting worse. I didn't have any preeclampsia. I didn't have any more hypertension than normal. I was fine on my normal medication. I didn't get any diabetes or anything like that, but I just felt like absolute trash. Like, my whole body hurt. I felt like I couldn't give myself fully to my first child when I was pregnant with the second. I was just so exhausted and so tired. And then once I had the second child, I just didn't go and do anything. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't go on walks. And this is so bad. I feel like middle child syndrome to the max. My second child, he was born in March. We didn't do anything that whole summer. It was really, really difficult. I don't think I was depressed or anything. It was so much work to leave the house with 2 children, and it's really difficult for me to nurse my children because my chest is enormous. I think I have a 38. At the time, I think it was like a 38 like M or something. It absolute insanity. So I can't really go out and nurse in public. It's really difficult. Like, I need my pillow. I need to hold my in one hand, and like it's a lot, and I can't just nurse on the go. It's super difficult. It's a whole production. So to just go places easily and do things with the baby and with my other child, it was just so much work. And I didn't really work out in that time either. I lost again that 30-ish pounds just naturally from having the baby, from nursing, because if you guys don't know, nursing burns around like 300 to 500 calories just normally. Like you don't even have to do anything, just like 300 to 500 calories extra on top of it, because your body is obviously making that milk and it's using energy to make that milk for your child. At around 7 months postpartum with the second child, so like the end of 2024, around like October, November, I had decided that I was like, okay, I think I'm finally at a point in my like life where I feel like I can start working out again. So I had made that decision that I was going to start Couch to 5K again, so that way I could maybe start running again and just doing a little bit more. Maybe I was going to get back on Nutrisystem, just like I was going to start trying. And then my husband and I went to go see Taylor Swift in concert in the beginning of November. So it was like November 1st or 2nd in Indiana. That was the first time we had a trip away since our second child was born. And a month later, I found out I'm pregnant. So Taylor Swift's fault that I got pregnant 7 months postpartum, right when I was about to start trying to lose weight again. And I told myself that I was going to be better. I was going to do better. At this point, I was like 255 pounds when I got pregnant with the third, 7 months postpartum. I told myself that I was going to lose this weight. I was going to stay at the weight I was going to be at. I was going to eat healthy. I was going to continue to walk. I wasn't going to start running again because you're not supposed to do that. But I was going to walk every day. I was going to eat healthy and watch what I ate. And so that way I would gain minimal, like 10 pounds max. That was my goal. So that way nothing else bad happened, because this was the highest weight that I'd ever been. My first 2 pregnancies, I started at 215 pounds each. And this one I was starting at 255 pounds. My body was completely wrecked. I felt like absolute garbage, like the worst I felt in my entire life. It was horrible. And my mental health was not doing great. My business at the time was not doing the best. Like I just was in a dark hole of, I would say not necessarily depression, but I felt like I was on the way there, and it was just not great. But did I do those things? No, I did not. I did not eat healthy. I did not watch what I ate. I did not go on the daily walks that I said I was going to go on. It was the middle of freaking winter. Like nothing that I said I was going to do happened. And it took a massive toll on my body. I didn't have anything bad happen to me while I was pregnant with the third baby, but after I gave birth, I didn't get preeclampsia, but I did have my blood pressure shoot up, and it has been not fun. I had to go on triple my normal dose of blood pressure meds, and then I had to add on an extra dose of blood pressure, like a completely different medication. So I was on 2 different medications and then triple of my dose of my normal medication. And this was just literally after I gave birth. So this is a fun side effect of birth sometimes. I hate the fact that if I had maybe eaten right and stayed at the same weight and not gained tons of weight, would it have changed anything? I got up to 315 pounds that I know of with her. That was like my last appointment before I went in to be induced, was around 315 pounds. So I gained, I don't know the math, 255 to 315. You guys can figure that out. But it was terrible. I felt like a lump. Like I just had no energy for anything. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything. I mean, I went and hung out with like my family. Like my parents have a house on a lake. So I went places and did things, but I was not regularly going on walks. I still had to do my job. And at this point in 2025, I actually did have a decent amount of weddings last year. So I did have to do those, but I was in so much pain after every single wedding. I'm on my feet for 8 to 10 hours a day nonstop, carrying tons of pounds of equipment, and just constantly have to be go and on the whole entire time. I feel like I ran a marathon after every single wedding, and it would take me almost the whole entire week to recover. And then I would have a wedding the next weekend. I didn't want to go on walks and kill my body when it's trying to recover, because the next weekend I had to be on and I had to not be in pain. So I rarely did anything with my kids. I rarely did anything like that as far as like working out, and eating healthy was just really freaking hard. It just didn't happen, and I was not in the mindset to do that. So at this point, I'm on tons of blood pressure medication. My body is in so much pain. I just feel like a shell of a person. I don't do anything fun for myself. I don't go anywhere. Every once in a while, like I think once a month, I usually hang out with my friends. So I am doing something. And I did start a book club, or no, I didn't start one. My sister started a book club, and I was able to start joining her book club. But that was once a month, and I just didn't go anywhere or do anything, and I didn't eat healthy, because eating healthy is hard when you have 3 children and the tiniest kitchen in the entire world. We literally have one counter to do things on. It's hard, and I'm making excuses, and I know that, and I know that people have hard circumstances and they make it work, but I just did not have the mental capacity and the mental fortitude to do these things, and I've completely lost myself. I don't work out, I don't eat healthy, I don't do things with my kids. I'm scrolling on my phone all day, and it's terrible, to be honest with you. What really scared me is around like a month or so postpartum, I started having a lot of extra pain that wasn't normal for me. And I mean, I was on all those blood pressure meds, which was really making me nervous that like something was really wrong. And so I ended up going to a cardiologist. I was just really scared that something was really wrong. At one point, I did actually have to have surgery for my gallbladder. I had to have that removed at the end of December last year. And I'm still having a lot of stomach pain. I'm still having like lots of different health issues. There's tons of different health issues that are going on with me right now. And I don't want to attribute that to my daughter. And obviously I would never blame her for the problems that I'm having. It's just, I feel like if I had not gotten pregnant, I wouldn't be in this position with a lot of these health problems that I'm having. And I wouldn't, if I had just done what I needed to have done, I wouldn't be in this position with the health problems I'm having. And it's really scary to feel like you're not potentially going to be around long term for your kids, and it's really scary to not be able to have the energy to play with them or do things like that, when honestly most of my life, like at this point I can't even say most of my life, because I'd say the past 10 years I have been overweight and have not had the energy. And then from 0 to 0 years old to 24 years old, I was doing really well. It's just really scary to think about that you aren't able to do the things that you used to be able to do. At around January-ish, so after my surgery, about 4 to 6 weeks after my surgery, I was still having some health problems. So I've seen like stomach doctor, and then I finally got in to see a cardiologist. And that was the wake-up call for me. I was having severe anxiety, and like actual anxiety, and I didn't know where it was coming from. I'm having horrible insomnia. My child isn't sleeping. So like all these things compounded on top of each other. I'm getting no sleep. I am having horrible anxiety that's keeping me up all night, insomnia that's keeping me up all night, health anxiety that's keeping me just scared and nervous and on edge 24/7. My health was rapidly declining, and I had lost weight at this point. So I was at 315 when she was born, and then just naturally, again, with losing the baby and like all the things that come with that and like nursing her, I got down to around 380, 385 was like where I was hovering for a couple months. I decided this is it. I have to make a change. This cannot be my life. I feel like I'm just like a shell of a person, and I'm in pain constantly every single day. Everything hurts. Not just the stomach health problems that I'm having, and not just like my back pain from having horrible posture and things like that. Just everything is just so painful. I have no energy to do anything. I don't feel like a person anymore, and something needed to change. So I have lost in the last, I said January 1st. January 1st is when I started trying to lose weight again officially. So I did tons and tons of research as far as what I need to eat to get my blood pressure down so I can get off these medications. So, what I need to do to bring my cholesterol down, because that was something that apparently I had high cholesterol and my doctor has never told me, which was really frustrating. She never thought that that was a big deal. I'm scared I'm going to have a heart attack at any moment. So anyways, I went to that cardiologist. everything has come back fine. Everything's good with that. Like, I don't have any heart problems. We did lots of tests. My blood pressure might be related to something as far as my hormones go, because he did test some of that, but I can't get in to see an endocrinologist for 6 months, so that's great. But I needed to make a change, so I cut out pretty much like most salt. I'm keeping a really low salt intake. I am not eating like any saturated fats. I was keeping to a specific calorie goal. I was just eating healthier, keeping the salt intake low, keeping the saturated fats level low, keeping the cholesterol levels low in the foods that I was eating. So looking at the packages of everything that I was going to be eating, and keeping those things low naturally made the foods that I was eating healthy, because those things are in unhealthy foods for the most part. And just by looking at those few things, the fat, the saturated fat, and the sodium levels, like in each individual item, naturally I was eating healthier because I wasn't eating those things, because those things are low in healthier foods. So naturally I was just eating healthier. I haven't been working out still. All I've been doing is keeping to like a 2,000-ish calorie, 2,400 calorie diet max. And I have lost like 1 to 2 pounds a week since January. I went from 280 on January 1st to now 254 last week, which was like March 20th or something like that. Today's the 25th of March. And that's crazy to me. So I'm starting this journey with you guys at 254 pounds. And I know that was a really long story of how I got here, but I feel like it was really imperative to let you guys know my whole entire backstory, because I think that that's really interesting to see how people got to where they are now going on these journeys. And if you can relate to anything that I'm talking about as far as losing yourself when you get pregnant and having small children and not feeling like a person anymore, and the health issues that come with that, and having no hobbies and not going anywhere and slight depression, like that is me right now. And I still have to function. I still have to take care of my kids because I stay at home with them because I work for myself. So I'm the one who stays home. My husband is out. He has a job outside of the house. So I'm home with them all day by myself, and I need to be better, and I need to do better for them, and I need to do better for myself. And I can't continue to live life like this. And I'm about to cry because it's so freaking sad how much time that I have wasted just being a lump, a shell of a human being. And I can't be this way anymore. And being scared that you're going to have a freaking heart attack at any second, or just something is going to go wrong in your body because you're taking care of it so terribly. And the choices that I have made in the last 10 years of my life has led me here, and that it's my fault. It's so depressing to think about. And I just continuously think about the person that I used to be, how active I was, how many friends I had, how many things I went and did. And obviously didn't have kids then, but like I had interests outside of just my phone, and I had interests, and I used to play soccer all the time, obviously, and like I miss it so much. I don't even know how to be a person anymore. I want to be able to go and do things with my kids and take them places and have the energy to go and do those things, and not feeling like getting them dressed to go on a walk is like the most exhausting thing in the world. And I want to not hurt when I get on the floor playing with them. And I want to be able to run around in the backyard with my 5-year-old playing soccer and push him on the swings, and not feeling like I want to just sit down in the chair and scroll my phone. Like, this is just the biggest wake-up call that I've ever had. And I've lost weight, like I said in the past, like the different times that I did, but this time is honestly the time that I know it's going to stick, whether I continue with these videos or not. Like, I know for myself that the weight loss will stick this time. There's no question in my mind. Even if we're done having kids, he's gotten the snip. But if for some reason something happens and it fails and we do have another kid, I know that if I were to have another pregnancy, I would do what I needed to do this time, because I cannot allow myself to go back there. I cannot do it. And I feel like that would put me on a path towards my early grave if I did. Okay, I've gotten a little bit morbid. I would love to have you guys join me on this journey. And if any of you guys are in the same position as me, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Like, how have you gotten to the place that you're at in your weight gain journey? Have you lost weight? Have you done anything to better yourself? I would love to hear from you. And if anything that I've said feels motivational to you and helps you get off your butt just like me to go on this journey. I would love to have you, and I would want to support you, and I want to cheer you on. So leave that comment down below, and it would be really cool if you would subscribe and like the video too. You don't have to, but I would absolutely love to have you follow on this journey with me. The plan is to continue on with these videos to keep myself accountable, but even if for some reason that doesn't happen, I know that I'm going to stick with the weight loss journey, and I hope that you guys do as well. Thank you so much. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're incredible. Like, I appreciate you and your face so much. So I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.